Good morning, everybody. I realized that the the second clip of a video I took yesterday that I posted, um, as I was editing it, I realized that there were some very important things that I didn't finish talking about. And it was so important to me that I started adding all these little information blurbs, which I realize can be hella distracting. So I'm going to go ahead and create that video again. And I did cut it off in the middle of me talking without all of the captions or text blurbs that I add, because it was explaining what I was talking about. I started to say something and then I kind of went down another. I mean, it was still part of the same conversation, but I started to talk about this topic, how when with my executive functioning, like if I start to do a task, something that I've been learning in the last year, it's really important for me to stop and remind myself that, hey, before you start, your expectations are not realistic. So let's stop for a second and like check yourself before you wreck yourself. Like, oh yeah, I forgot. So in my head, I think I can do XYZ, like, no problem. And then I forget all of the things all of the issues in my ADHD brain. And we've got multiples, and you don't realize that these different things might be happening at the same time. You might be dealing with some executive dysfunction where you're like, I have no idea where to start. Oh my goodness, how do I tell what's most important? You may not be able to figure out how to break it down into smaller pieces. And you're like, yeah, I'm just going to wing it. And you start, then you get the distraction that starts like 2 minutes in. And you're like, oh, I forgot to start my laundry. Oh, let me go over there and do it. You go into the other room, you start the laundry, and then you remember something else. Next thing you know, 2 hours go by, and you walk back in the kitchen and realize you never finished the dishes or whatever the thing was that you started. So, executive dysfunctioning, prioritizing, figuring out how to break the task down. You think you're just going to go do it when maybe you should break it down into smaller bits, because maybe it's going to take you longer than you think, and all of these other things are going to happen, but you don't visualize those things happening. So you start to do the thing, don't realize that you need to stop and think about these things first before you just think you can go do it. And then inevitably you fail. And then it adds up to this whole pile. I'm sorry, I'm sitting on my bed and I'm not trying to rock. It ends up being part of this whole, it adds to all of your failures in your mind, and it just becomes a snowball effect. So just know that if that happens to you, you may be having multiple things going on in your brain that once it's explained to you, you can completely understand it. But it kind of can take, especially if you're newly diagnosed, it can take a long time to get your mind around it. And it's depressing once you learn that there might be 5 different things, and you might deal with one. You might deal with a couple, or on a really bad day, they might kick in all at once. The time blindness, the executive dysfunctioning, the emotional regulation, because now you're frustrated. You keep trying to pay attention, and all of these things throughout, like the 2 hours in the morning when you're eating and trying to get ready, and it's one thing after another, and as you're trying to just pay attention to get out the door, your frustration builds, and now you're having an emotional regulation issue, leads to anxiety. You might spiral, then your brain just shuts down. Does any of this sound like you? There's like 5 different things that can happen, and they're all tied to executive functioning broadly, but of course, the distractions executive dysfunction, emotional regulation, time distortion, not time management from being distracted, which happens also, but your sense of time itself. Not every ADHD person has this, but you may not be able to sense how much time has gone by. And then also the poor interoception. You don't realize you haven't eaten. You need to pee. You haven't drinking water in hours, and you're wondering why you can't think straight. And that might be with medication. So yeah, I thought about, there were really important things I wanted to tell you, so I added them to the video, and I realized the thing I was typing about as I kept talking in the video, I went on to the next subject. So that could be like really distracting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to take that segment and I kind of cut it off in the middle of what I was talking about. And I'm going to post it again without all of those captions, those little text blurbs. But if you do see it and it's not distracting and you want to just pause the video, mute it, and then just read what I wrote. So you'll play it, text comes up, pause it if you have to, read it, and then just go through and read all of the things I'm saying. Because I kind of go through the steps of like how I check myself just before I start a task to go, oh, wait a second. This is where a bunch of things is going to happen and mess me up. Maybe. So let's check in with myself before I start. What is realistic for me today? And that's really, really hard because each day you might have a different level of functioning. And if you've never done that before and you didn't realize you had completely wrong expectations of yourself because your entire life everyone's telling you you're fine, there's something wrong with you, it's in your head and you could do it if you want to, and you've got an entire lifetime of those things being told to you over and over and over and over, day after day after day after day after week after month after year after year after decade after decade. It's not just internalized ableism. I mean, think of all the times you've heard that. And still, you go to work, and if you can't really talk about any of this stuff because unless somebody has it themselves or they're a therapist that works with it or it really runs in their family, they won't believe you because they don't get it. I mean, people aren't educated in these things. I wasn't, so they'll be like, because all of these things that you might struggle with is automatic for them. That part of their brain's functioning. Oh, that must be nice that you can, every single part of your day where your brain is automatically, like there's an automated system that can that's what the executive functioning is. It's not just thinking through and deciding, which we can do as well, but there's an automated system there that helps you make that decision. So as you're thinking, oh, what's more important, what's not, that system kicks in and there's a part in your brain that knows how to filter through it all. And we don't really have that so much. So it's its own blind spot. And there's like 4 or 5 things. And now imagine you've got 4, and then there's the working memory, which is the type of memory where you're holding something in your mind while you need to use that thought to do the thing. And we all know that feeling of when you walk into the other room and what was I just doing? Like we all do that. Even, everyone, even neurotypical people. But imagine that happening all the time. And it constantly stop you from what you're doing and have to constantly stop and remember what you were doing. Like some days might be better than others. You might have different functioning on different days. And it's hard to manage that because you're already just freaking frustrated that you had the problem in the first place because you're a perfectly intelligent, capable person, maybe more so than some of the people around you. And so it's really quite maddening. So learning how to stop before you start a task that you really want to get done that day, to check in with yourself and see, okay, I visualize myself just doing the thing. I see myself going in and changing the dishes. I see myself sitting down and doing this work that I'm like, I have to do this project or whatever it is. When you go to visualize yourself doing it, you can't visualize the things that are going to go wrong. But the things that are going to go wrong is part of what you have. And you really just want to just do the thing. I don't know if we lie to ourselves and we just, I'm going to make it happen this time. I'm not going to get distracted. It's not going to happen. Does it change it? No. Does that stop us from hating ourselves and getting all pissed off? No. So yeah, but if you do that, it's hurting you, right? Because now you're beating yourself up. It's more the same. It's more the same stuff you've heard your whole life, only you do it 10 times worse because you think if you're mean to yourself and you absolutely will not tolerate anything less, you could just like symbolically beat yourself into submission. Yeah, I'm vicious to myself. I've been working on it a lot, so it's not as bad. And I've been making a lot of changes this year because I was going to self-destruct. It was bad. This is right before my burnout. You know, the suicide attempt rate and depression rate for people who are neurodivergent is higher than the general population. I mean, think about that. Your whole life, you got people telling you there's nothing wrong with you because they don't want to tolerate it because they've got their own problems. And you don't think there's anything wrong with you, and you don't understand why it keeps happening. And you don't understand that there's multiple things, maybe, depending on you, messing you up. And you can't see them. And nobody's ever talked to you about them. Nobody's told you the different areas of your brain that each of these dysfunctions is occurring in, why they're occurring. I'm still learning. I just woke up and was thinking about this, so I had to pop in and tell you. And this time it is going to be really quick because I'm going to post this as it is. But yeah, I think it's really important for you guys to know that. I think what I'm going to do is the video I posted yesterday, I'm going to go back and I'm going to take screenshots of the blurbs. But yeah, I go through, if you do want to go back and watch that on mute and either take notes or screenshots of that, that might be helpful if this is issues that you have. But having the correct expectations, it's a skill. It's a skill you have to learn. And it's funny because I didn't realize, I'm so tired, I just woke up. It's a skill I didn't realize that, I just woke up early too, I might go back to bed. I didn't realize that I didn't have the right expectations. And then I decided it was something I was going to work on this past year. And what ended up happening was I couldn't do it. And I'm like, what do you mean? I made my expectation lower. I changed my goal. But then I realized, like, each day that I was actually trying to start to be aware of my expectations, how off they were. It's like 6:30 in the morning or something, 7. I don't even know. So I'm going to lay back down and I'm going to take a little nap. But I wanted to throw that out there for you. I took a pretty long video yesterday. It was almost 2 hours. And I haven't been making content for you guys in a while. So a lot like came out that I needed to talk about. And I thought, oh my God, nobody's going to watch 2 hours. I can't watch 2 hours. But for some reason, when I record myself, I can't script it. It has to do with the way my neurodivergence is. Even if I were to write down what I want to talk about, there's no telling where my brain's going to go. So instead of trying to force it to do something that's not natural, I just let myself talk. And then if I can, I go back and try to cut them into manageable segments for you. And I'll try to write I'll cut it by topic. So then when you go back and watch it, you can decide, which ones you want to watch. So you're not sitting there for like freaking 2 hours just glazing over like what? Nobody's going to watch that. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I am tired. I don't know what's happening this week. I started telling you guys that I did a thought download. If you're wondering what a thought download is, it is not like the spiritual thing that you might hear. Some of you might be friends with Genevieve, and she talks about information downloads. That's the equivalent of, if you're not into any kind of like spirituality like that, that's the equivalent of, let's say you get after you prayed that week, and if you're religious or spiritual, and you've felt an insight coming to you and you think it might be from your higher power. But when I talk about a thought download, it's a term for brainstorming. So let's say, okay, this week I'm trying to get myself back on track, right? And yesterday I did a thought download where I'm like, okay, let me just get everything out of my head. What are all the things that I need to work on? And there were so many areas of my life right now that I like working on my business that I want to start. I want to do some content, and I figure out a way that I can maybe start giving some attention or time to that to kind of, and it helps me. Like doing this, which might be helpful for you, also helps me because me discussing these things helps me to know what I need to work on next. And if sharing that with you helps you feel less alone, then I feel good about that. And also any of us sharing with each other what helps us is going to help somebody, So it's been 17 minutes and I am going to leave. It feels like 5 to me. I'm so tired. I'm going back to sleep. But yeah, I think give it a watch. The 2 that I posted yesterday happened to be very short. Like one's 4 minutes, one's 8 minutes or something. But there's really good information on this 2-hour thing I recorded. What I ended up doing was I realized, how am I going to explain this to people? Because there's like, in my head, I know the things, the dysfunctions that are happening in your brain, or might be. Like we're all a little bit different. So I got a notebook out in this video and I started writing it all down, and I started explaining it to you, and I started explaining to you what might be happening. And then I added, and now imagine this happening on top of it. And then I give you some examples. So I wanted to, it's like, I know in my head, like I'm finally starting to grasp the layers that might be happening simultaneously. And nobody talks about this, right? So we'll talk about ADHD, and there is so many content creators and they're doing really good work. And, educators as well in the field. And we break things down individually. So each time we might talk about a different topic. We might explain what executive functioning or executive dysfunction is and how that challenge may show up to you. Another time we might talk about time distortion, time blindness, what that is. Another time we might talk about the issue of time management, which may be caused by a multitude of things, which may not have anything to do with the time blindness. So you may actually have a couple things going on to affect your management of time. Meanwhile, every day you're getting up, these things are invisible. They're like these little gremlins in your brain, fucking you up. The difficulty of forming habits that the average neurotypical person takes for granted. There's like either a part of your brain or certain neurons, or there's a part of your brain that forms habits. And when I'm talking about habits in this particular instance, I'm talking about the automated things that you do every day so that you don't have to spend the enormous cognitive energy to think through the steps every day. Like, do you really need to think through the steps every day of how to make your coffee? If you're neurotypical people, no, you actually don't even, you just space out and it just automatically happens. And that's the automated system, that type of habit forming. And that frees up your brain, the energy to think about other things that are actually important, that are different from day to day. Now imagine you don't have that. So you have all these other things going on. You're getting distracted. Your sense of time is off. And now if you have emotional dysregulation that day because you're stressed out, forget it. Because if you get too dysregulated, your brain just shuts off altogether and you feel like an insane, crazy person. You just go blank. So depending on how severe your ADHD is and how, these individual challenges play out for you, because we're all a little different in how severe it is. And that might be different at different times in your life. If you're going through a difficult time right now, your symptoms may get hella bad. It's maddening because you get these messages from people around you who you base your own opinion on yourself on, which is an incorrect expectation and you have no idea. And then these things happen again and again and again and again. And what do? You beat yourself up. Why? Because you don't know any different. And you start to learn about it, and counseling helps you undo all of those years of believing things that aren't true. But then you get around your family, your friends, your coworkers, your boss, whatever. And if it does come up in conversation because for some reason maybe you have to discuss accommodations with your boss, they won't believe you a lot of times. And then that goes back right to making you think you're crazy and then making you think, that's it, I'm going to overcome it. So that's how it's been for me for a lot of my life. And it's just this self-destructive cycle. And it's just no wonder. It's no wonder why so many of us have coexisting comorbidities of anxiety, depression, all that good stuff. Oh my God. Anyway, I love you guys. I'm going to go take my nap. And I am going to post that short 8-minute one again without all of those captions that I added. And if that's a distraction for you, because while I was doing it, I'm like, this is a really bad idea. They're going to hate me. Can be like, what the F did you do? I can't pay attention when I'm trying to listen to you and watch your face with all these captions all over the place. If I'm reading the captions, I can't read the captions because you're talking. I mute it and I still can't pay attention because I see some. Yeah. So I know for myself, I wouldn't be able to pay attention to that. So what I'm going to do is I'll repost that video, but I'll make it a little bit longer because I cut myself off while I was talking as well. And that way you can just watch it. If it was helpful for you and you wanted to see what I had to say, but that messed it up, you'll be able to watch it. And maybe I can go back and take screenshots of the things that I was sharing with you, because I start to write down the steps of what I do in the moment of checking myself for my expectations and then assessing, okay, what's realistic for me today? Which all of these things are blind spots. So that almost feels like Mission Impossible to do as well, because how do you assess that if it's something that you can't see? Like you can't predict it. So it gets very tricky, but at least starting to become aware of that and using that and starting to create tools for yourself, like even creating any kind of idea for just like a fun little experiment. Like, let me see if I can pay attention today, what my expectations are before I do something. And that can be anything. That can be something mindless that's just frustrating for you, like some kind of cleaning in your house that maybe you always get distracted. Whatever your particular, don't do it with getting ready in the morning though for work. Don't start with that, because that will be, if that's a real problem for you. I mean, you can, if you can do it with a certain level of detachment. But if that is a difficult thing for you, like it is with me, if you start there, it might be super triggering and it might bring you might melt down if it itself becomes a distraction and adds to the layer of all of the things that are sabotaging you from being ready on time. We'll talk more soon. I do need to get back into content as well as all these other things that I'm trying to do, because I started focusing on these other goals of mine, which are very important, and I have to do them. And I haven't been doing certain things to manage my symptoms and my particular challenges. And I need to get back on track. I don't know if I'm going to use the planner. I don't know how I'm going to try it this time. I don't really want it to be complicated. But yeah, that thought download, which was brainstorming all of my goals, which I started yesterday morning, I was writing my things to do list, one item after another item, for 45 freaking minutes. That is how many things is on there. 45 minutes of me going, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. Talk about an executive functioning nightmare. So, yeah, I might just go back. I texted it to myself. I might take screenshots and do this little slideshow for you so you guys can help me figure it out. You know, I could probably help somebody else figure out what was important, but not for myself. Who knows? I'll figure something out. I love you guys. I'm going back to sleep for a little while. I'm having my counselor appointment today. I don't know what else is happening today. I really, really wanted to... God. My things to-do list. I'll do a video about this because they're all important. You know, I got to get a new prescriber so I can start weaning off of this medication that's really not good for me. I haven't been to a regular doctor in years, and I got to go do that. There's a list of the next steps for me in my customized business plan that Gemini is helping me with, which was very, very accommodating for me, because the things that I'm not good at, that's what it does. It sorts through massive amounts of information, consolidates it down, and can prioritize it. And so there's some ways that you can use it to help you if you are able to have the level of discernment to be able to keep in mind what is realistic for what AI can do for you and what it can't do for you. And just to make sure, some people are vulnerable to starting to think that, because AI is designed to be very accommodating for you and very compassionate. So if you're very lonely and depending on the level of, if you have autism, if you have coexisting comorbidity of some mental health issues, combined with either abuse, neglect, trauma, it is for some people easy to lose touch and think it's like a person and you have a relationship with it. And that can be very harmful for people. I'm not an expert. I'm not a professional. I'm just throwing it out there. One of the things that I had asked, if I ever do talk about how AI is helping me, I want to be cognizant of it. And I'm not an expert on that. But yeah, if you think it might help you and you have higher support needs, or you're a caregiver, or for somebody who is, check with their therapist or whoever is the expert that's helping support you guys and your needs, and check with them to see what's appropriate for the, I don't want to say level of functioning because I hate that and that's hurtful, but you know what I'm talking about. Some people's support needs may, like the level of where their support needs are, may provide some challenges in that area. So if somebody has the ability to be discerning, and there is nothing wrong if you can't, because we all have different struggles, and that might be yours, and that's okay. Definitely talk to your caregivers, talk to the people in your life, your support system, to find out what is helpful for you, because it's different for everyone, and this might not be good for you. But if you need someone to help you sort out lists and prioritize things, it's exceptional. But you still also, another thing, while you're doing it, you have to hold in your mind what it can and can't do. And also, you might, something it tells you, my hand's shaking, something might tell you inside, like, this rings true. You still have to not lose track of the fact that you have to periodically double check what it's telling you sometimes, depending on what you're asking it to do, because it can make mistakes. So beware. Love you guys. I'm going to go back to sleep for a little while, and I hope you do something kind for yourself today. I might color my hair. I don't know. I'm not, you know what? I'm not even going to jinx anything. I'll pop back on. I don't think I'm ready to do lives. I wanted to start doing lives this week, but I'm trying to get back on track on some, try to see why the last couple weeks, like, yes, I know I've been just like focusing on trying to start this business and shutting everything out, but now it's like interfering with like my daily functioning. Like, I'm not doing dishes, I'm not doing the litter box, I'm not doing the things, and my closet's getting bad and I can't get to my clean clothes. And yes, so I have to stop, reassess, go back, and also look at what are the most important categories of things that I want to move forward in. It's really hard to figure out like how as well to do it in a way that is realistic for you, and break down the steps. Because how quick I want to do things or think I can is, even without all of those issues messing you up, even on the best of days, my ability and what I think my ability are usually not the same. And how far off they are from each other changes depending on the day and my level of functioning that day. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to sleep, and then when I wake up, I'm going to have some coffee. Maybe I'll have like coffee chat with you guys, see how your week's doing. Anything new and exciting for you? I'm trying to think of possibly getting a part-time job while I'm starting to develop this business, just in case this working towards a business takes way longer than I anticipate. It's kind of a tricky thing because either one of those can crowd out the other one. So I don't really know how to approach this in a balanced way, but I do need to get some income soon, and I don't know how to do it. On my channel, I have earned 300 watch hours, 300 something watch hours out of 3,000 that I have to get before I can earn any money. And that I've been here like a year. So I'm like, I'm never going to win. I'm never going to earn any money on here. But I'm not on, like, some of you know Genevieve. I'm not, I haven't popped onto her channel recently because I've just been overwhelmed with all these new things that I'm trying to do, that I've kind of pushed a lot of things away just so I could focus on that. And unfortunately, that also includes people, and it wasn't to be mean, but I've been pushing friends away, separate from here, because I can only do so much, right? It's a lot. It's always skills that we're learning how to manage these things. You're resilient and you're exceptional and you're a champion for getting up every day and trying to manage some days where you've got multiple things going wrong in your brain and you have no idea, and you're blaming yourself maybe, and you would just like to try to get in the car and drive to work without realizing you put your mug on the top of the car and now your coffee and coffee mug are in the middle of the street somewhere. Or maybe you put your keys in the fridge. Okay, do I need to buy vitamins? Pills through protein. See what kind of nutritious things that you can get for yourself that are easy. Like some fruits and vegetables, like bananas. When next time you go to the grocery store, try to see if, don't go crazy with changing your diet or anything. Try to see if you can, get a couple of extra nutritional things in. If you've been overwhelmed and leaning on the junk food lately. Just little things that you can do for yourself to try to get your energy back and do your brain a solid, do your brain a favor from maybe the coffee, the dehydration from the coffee, or the junk food that you might lean on. And whatever you can do to help yourself. Multi-prong approach. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. I wish there was. And don't give up. And we'll talk soon. I love you guys. Bye.